Okay. The way I measure the elastic is a little bit different than some other people. Some people will tell you that you measure the distance between the two elastic markings and then cut it in half, but I mean, all kinds of elastic are different, and you may have a batch that's a different stretchiness than another batch, even in the same brand, which I usually use Stretch Right. So the way I do it is I take my elastic and I hold it down at one elastic marking. And you can't just, on the leg holes, you can't just measure straight across because it's a shorter distance than the curve around the leg hole. So I grab it and I leave about a ½ inch so I can grab onto it while I'm tacking it down, and also so it doesn't rip. If it's, if you sew it too close to the end, it's going to rip through, and then you won't have a very good leg hole for the baby. And I basically stretch it out little tiny distances along this, the curve of the leg hole. I hold it in place. So I'm going, get to the last one, and then I leave an extra ½ inch, and that is how much I would cut off. So for that leg hole on my pattern, it's almost 5 inches, but that's with this brand of elastic and with this batch of elastic, and yours might be different, so always measure and always double check. I have my 3 pieces of elastic now. I've got my 2 leg holes that I already cut, and I've got my back one. I've already tacked my back one on, and I'm just going to briefly tell you how that's done. I take just a regular straight stitch on the sewing machine, and I put the elastic marking underneath the presser foot, put the elastic on top, and I make sure that it's above that top stitching still in the seam allowance. Can you see that? I always sew my elastic in the seam allowance, and I only tack it down while it's inside out. I don't sew it onto the pole, because the fewer holes the better. You don't want to create more holes for wicking to happen. So the way I tacked it down was I just did a very slow straight stitch forward and then back and then forward again and then back again and off of the end. And then I take my seam ripper and I trim the excess threads. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other end. And at the end it's going to be bunched up like this, which is fine. And I'm going to do that to the back of it and then both leg holes.